Hello, Capricorn. Welcome to your story for the week. This story could be about a past situation or a future one, though. So don't expect that the story will necessarily resonate with what you're going through now. Right now, I am shuffling through my night sky playing cards, which have different constellations on them. We will use the figures of the constellations to craft our story. There goes one. Oh, interesting. Hercules just like flew out. Hercules, which is interesting because Hercules was just in the Taurus reading. So Hercules shows up again. All right, now what is Hercules? Heracles or Hercules, I'll call him Heracles, I prefer that. What is Heracles' challenge? What does Heracles need protection from? These are my protection playing cards. I really love these cards immensely. What does Heracles need protection from? Here we go. Protection from courting in tall grass. Ooh. Courting in tall grass. All right. So we have the hero, right? Courting in tall grass. Isn't that always the way? Okay, Capricorn. Once upon a time, lived a great hero named Heracles. And he had immense trouble finding the proper mates. It seemed that he always found one when he wasn't looking for one. And though things would seem to be on the surface perfectly fine, normal, and natural, as soon as he got to know any of them or tried to actually move, further with any of them, disaster would strike. Like their true selves would be revealed. He kept going through, basically, he would meet nymphs and they would be lovely at first, such most gorgeous maidens, and then they would turn like wicked evil on him and like attack him. Sirens. He'd hear their lovely voices calling and he'd be like enchanted by them, and then come to find them trying to kill him. All manner of beautiful and incredibly demonic creatures, wanted to mate with him. But like every time he got close, they were just not what was expected. So even though he tried to do the right thing, he found nothing. And this made him sad, And he wondered, like, where am I going to find, a wife? Where am I going to find the proper mate? Where am I going to find someone who I can build something with? Okay, we'll take the top one here. So our hero was single for a long time. He went on his quests far and wide, and always dreamed of having love, but never found it. Always would come home alone. Wow, so we've got 2 fours here. We've got the 4 of bats, and then the 4 of ghosts, or otherwise 4 of swords, and the 4 of cups. He spent a good time thinking and being alone, but also being alone with his thoughts, going over basically everything that had gone wrong in the past, and also daydreaming about like how he wished it would be. You know, wondering, you know, when is it going to be my turn? Thinking about like what he was left out of that everyone else seemed to get so easily. As usual, people came to him with quests. Do this for me, do that for me. He had many offers of people wanting something from him, you know. Always wanting something. Wanting him to do something for him. Is this Capricorn's story or what? So always wanting someone to do some, you know, always wanting him to do something for them. You know, one said to him, I will offer you a great bounty if you do this task for me. And he says, okay, I need to know what it is first, you know. I'm a busy hero. I can't just do anything. I can't just go on any quest. And he says, no, I will pay you up front, but I'm not going to tell you what the quest is. Or no, he doesn't say I will pay you up front. He says, I will pay you handsomely, but I am not going to tell you what the quest is. You have to agree to it. And, you know, Heracles is used to getting used a lot. He said, okay, well, I need the money. I can handle any shit. Whatever. I've done everything there is to do. What could possibly make me freak out? What could possibly be that which I couldn't handle? You know, okay, this one. So he agreed, not knowing what the fuck it was. Pardon my language. Not knowing what it was that was expected of him, but he says, okay, I'll do it. You know, whatever. He agreed. And so this patron, if you will, of Capricorn's, or Heracles' talents, said, all right, I need you to go to this other kingdom, and I need you to deliver a message to the king there. But this king is very, very, very hard to please, okay? This is why I'm paying you to deliver the message. I need a celebrity, basically. I need somebody who's gonna bestow a lot of confidence in this king, mind you. He needs to see somebody who is like worth seeing. Oh, what's this? So yeah, he says, okay, I'll deliver the message. No problem. All right, so Heracles goes on this mission, brings this like massive scroll. He doesn't even know what's in it. He doesn't care, right? He's so used to like going on quests at this point that it's a moot point. All right, of course I'm gonna do this thing. You want me to do something for you? Sure. You're gonna pay me to do it? Sure, whatever. Like, but the problem is he's been asked to read it to the king. Like, it's not just like he's bringing it. He's got to read it. Okay. So he goes on this journey, and he's decked out in style, mind you. He's got like, he's looking good. He's this guy has given him like an entourage, a small entourage, like to travel with him, to help him. He's paying basically for his like help, and he's paying him you know, for like the chariot he's driving, you know. So he travels to this place looking good. But all of a sudden, right, they are ambushed, and someone basically, like these robbers ambush the chariot, and even though he fights them off courageously, like his transportation is destroyed, right? And in it, so is the message that he was being asked to bring, that he didn't even read. He didn't even know what message he was delivering. So he's halfway on his journey, right? His stuff gets messed up. He doesn't even know what he's supposed to do. And he decides, fuck it, I'm going anyway, right? I'm just gonna do it. Whatever. I got this. I know who I am. I got this. Whatever he wants, like, you know, I got this. That's the kind of confidence we're dealing with here. He knew, right? He's like, I can reason with this king, you know. Is this? I'll reason with this king. Like, I'm gonna tell him, you know, straight up, this happened. This guy really wants, you know, to see, you know. He basically comes up with this, like, I'm going to finesse this king I've never met. So yeah, he moves forward. He doesn't go back. He moves forward, and he's received well, right? He's like, yeah, you know, oh, I'm here to see the king, and like, everybody's like, yeah, of course you are, like, whatever, you know, you're you, come on in, like, no problem. And yeah, so he arrives, you know, not looking so great, but he is who he is, and he's, you know, basically leading, like, this trip, you know, and his people, they're like, you know, obviously they sorted out, like, the ride situation. They sold their horses. They basically travel in less style, but they get there and they're well received. Everyone opens their arms to them. They get, like, welcome to the best inns in this city. You know, they get basically directions to go and have an audience with the king there. And the king receives them and is happy too, and invites him, like, oh, here, have a feast. We'll sit together and we'll talk. Have a great feast, great party, like, and they have the conversation, you know, why are you here? Why are you here? What do you want from me? Like, you know, you're just here, you're having a little, you're on a tour or something, what's going on? And he's like, oh, hell, how am I gonna swing this? And he kind of freezes, and he's like, I'd like to talk to you in private about that matter. Like, it's really serious. Look, I need to talk to you about that in private. I am here for personal reasons, but I would prefer not to have so big an audience. And so the king thinks, and he says, okay. But there's a catch. You're going to have to stay here for a while. I will give you a private audience, but you have to stay here a while and you have to do some tasks for me. And he's kicking himself for not preparing, you know, not reading the scroll that he was sent to deliver, not knowing what his actual mission was. And he was being paid for, right? So he agrees, he'll stay. You know, he's feeling kind of guilty for, like, not being more responsible at the beginning of his trip. And he says, yeah, I will do whatever tasks you need me to do, no problem. He goes and the king wants him to, like, go kill some, like, monsters. He does it. The king wants him to, you know, help settle a dispute. He does it, you know. The king wants him to, like, boost morale around the city-state. He does it. That's 2 cards here. And the funniest thing happens. While he's doing this, you know, while he's like putting his head down and like doing this work, he meets a woman from the city that he's in, the kingdom that he's in. And it's really interesting because even though their dynamic starts out kind of not what he expected. You know, at first he doesn't like her. He finds her kind of severe and uninteresting. But intelligent and helpful. He starts talking, you know, they start to form a relationship. And he starts to feel like, you know, well, what's going to happen when I have to leave? Because he feels strongly that something's happening here, and it's interesting because it's, you know, she wasn't attractive at first, but she's someone who became more the more that they got to know each other, and she helps him with some of the quests that the king sends him on and gives him advice. Okay, and straight up he tells her, you know, he brings this massive problem to her. He's like, look, I'm doing these tasks here because I need an audience with the king, but I actually don't know why I was sent here. I've, you know, was given scrolls to deliver this message, you know, from this benefactor who hired me, and paid me handsomely. But I lost it, you know, when we were attacked on our journey here, and basically I don't know what to say. And so she gives him advice. She's like, look, the king has a daughter. This guy who hired you most likely is looking to offer her marriage because she's becoming of marriageable age. And so he like listens to this and he's like, oh, that's plausible. But he really doesn't know what to do about it. You know, he's like, you know, am I going to say this? Like, what if that isn't the case and I totally blunder it, you know? You know, he has a choice to make here. So he listens to her. He wants to believe her, and he thinks it makes sense. But, you know, there's also, like, all these nagging doubts, and, you know, he starts to get flooded the longer he stays in this village with, like, the weight of what he's dealing with, right? So he's come here kind of half-assing it inappropriately. Has to do these quests so that he can get an audience with this king, and then what's he going to say to this king? You know, he's going to make something up. He feels like he's making something up. So he finally gets an audience with the king, and he's like, you know, this has been like 4 months at this point that he's been there. And he's like, okay. The king says to him, like, what do you want from me? Why did you come here? And he says, I was hired to come here by a man who gave me scrolls to deliver to you. And my party was attacked on the journey here. And I lost the scrolls. And unfortunately, I never bothered to look at what was in them. And essentially, I was hired to deliver a message to you, but now I don't have the message. He's like brutally, like, just honest about what happened. And, you know, the king listens to him and is just like perplexed. And he's like, wait a minute. You are telling me, you know, you're telling me that you came here and did all this work for me, you know, that you didn't need to do. Because you don't even have the message. Because really what you needed to say to me was, he's like, you should have just went back. But you've stayed here and stayed on and like done work. And he's like, you have an interesting character. You know? This actually, like, instead of, even though he thinks that the decision made was like totally stupid, right? Like, he would never do it himself. He wonders about the type of person who would do that instead, who would go on with the journey and own his own mistakes in the process, you know, this, and, you know, even do work that was unnecessary. And he says, look, tell me who this guy is, you know, who hired you. He tells him who it was, and he says, okay. He's like, I think I know what he wants. You're free to go. As far as I'm concerned, you know, this work is done. He's like, you tell him that I was incredibly impressed with this gift of your company and all the work you did for me. He's like, and I will do him this favor, right? You go tell him that. So he realizes he has to go back home. And it's sad because he started to feel comfortable in this kingdom, you know. It wasn't his home, but it was a home away from home. You know, he started to have a place. He had stability. He had a job, you know, that was stable. And he knew what he had to do every day. And he was just like, man, you know, this is a good life. I'm going to have to, like, swallow my pride and go back home, you know, and, like, go back to being on my own. There's the question of this, you know, maiden, this woman that he met that had been helping him with some of his travels as well. And he thought, like, I could offer her marriage, you know, I could offer her to come back with me. You know, and he really thought, like, what would I want? Do I want her to come with me? Or do I want to make this offer? Am I ready for this even? You know, because mind you, their relationship was still it wasn't, you know, it was more mental, I guess, and their connection was more mental than, like, passion or, like, and they hadn't really been romantic at all. It had all been very, like, much about intellectual appreciation. So, yeah, he sat and he thought, like, okay, as he's, like, packing up, getting ready to go, getting his stuff in order, he's like, what am I going to say to her? Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to make this right? The story's going on. We need to wrap up, okay? A few more cards. Okay. And you know what? He didn't say anything. He left in the night and didn't say anything to her. He's like, you know what? It's not going to work anyway. Like, we're from different lands. She's doing this thing, I'm doing this. Like, and so he just leaves. damn it, Heracles. This is so tragic. Okay. He leaves and he gets home, you know, finally, and like everyone's celebrating, everyone's happy to see him. He's so happy, you know, he's back in his element. He's doing his hero thing. He's like, yeah, it's me. He's feeling, you know, he's doing this cocky little dance. And, you know, he just feels the pull, feels the thing that's missing. And he talks to this guy, you know, that hired him. He's like, yeah, the king's agreed he'll pay you the favor. And he's like, what favor? You know, what favor are you talking about? He's like, I brought you, like, he's like, the scrolls I brought you. He said he'll, like, do what you want. You know, he's so bullshitting the guy that hired him, you know, because he's like, and the guy says, oh, no, I actually work for that king, and he was interested in having you be the potential suitor of his daughter. And I hired you and you were ambushed. He hired him, so he reveals, he's like, I was hired by the king. We arranged your ambushing, you know, and basically saw your, put you through all these trials to see if you had a strong enough character to be, you know, a potential suitor for this, you know, royal daughter, you know, princess, if you will. I don't really know if that's the right term, but whatever. Yeah. And so he's like, I don't know, you know. He's like, so, you know, he's like, so this guy, he's just like, I don't think I could marry someone I don't know. You know, I didn't meet his daughter when I was there. You know, I don't think that it would be right to just, you know, he's like, I never, even though, like, there were all these, like, events and things, like, his daughter never really was a part of it, from what he could tell. So, you know, he's just like, why, you know, why is this? Okay, one more card. Come on. This one, okay. And so he's like, well, I don't know, but you're going to have to go back and talk to him. So he arranges, he goes back. I have a really happy ending here for this story. The daughter in question of this king, let me reveal to you, was actually this woman that he met. And she was basically, they all put him up to this test to see if he would be worthy of her affection and of marrying into this family. And so he had a lot to think about. For one, he was totally messed with in a big way, mentally, physically, time-wise. But on the other hand, you know, he finally got the type of partner that he wanted. You know, he finally found a suitable wife that he could, you know, relate to and that he could have a journey with. But he had to basically go through this trial and tribulation, which is interesting because even though Heracles, whatever, did so many quests throughout his life. Like, you know, when you're a hero, there's always something else that you're being put to the test on. So yeah, I don't want to say they lived happily ever after, but they got married and they had a family, you know, and he got to marry into that royal family, you know, their kids were set up, everything was good. The end.